Hello and welcome. We are on the road, presented to you by Angle 3 Pictures. My name is Benjamin. Today we are joined with
Léah,
Mayen,
Daryl,
Jenny.
and we are gonna talk about family and whether they support you and how they can support you in filmmaking and your journey as a human being, blah, 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 blah. So the first question is, how did your family respond to you telling them that you wanted to be a filmmaker?
where do you want to start? Which person
Well, you started. Let's start with you.
should not have spoken? My dad came from the graphic design world, and my dad was probably the biggest, he was probably the most initial instigator of my interest in films, because he was basically I'm pretty sure when I was 6 years old, he was like, "Hey, I know a great film to take our son to. Let's go take me and Ryan to watch Jurassic Park. What's the worst that could happen?" And I love Jurassic Park, but obviously Mum was like, "People are dying in this film." And then I'm pretty sure I was 8 or 9 when I saw. I don't know if it was Alien or Godfather that came first, but that was definitely one of those two films that was pretty early on.
Why not both? Alien, Godfather.
The Godfather, Alien.
Yeah.
And when I told Dad that I have a very keen interest in films, he was like, "I can't wait to see what you produce, and
That's really
go
cool.
for it, and all for you." Mum, on the other hand, was a bit more. She came from a much more disciplined background, and like any Asian parent, and she was very relaxed. She's more relaxed in terms of typical Asian parents, but she was obviously like, "Hey, that's great and all, but that's a hobby, right? Where's the steady income? Where's the, what are you studying at, uni, and how is that going to better you in your career? And, there is going to be a career from this, right?" And I think because she also supported, she was the managing director for my dad's freelance graphic design company. So even she was aware of what the real life of a freelancer can be, which is a lot of eating bread and just making it by kind of lifestyle. That was my first introduction, was actually when I finally jumped in and said, "I'm getting straight into film." She's like, "Great, I know the perfect person you should talk to. Your auntie Wendy, who was a casting director." And I'm like, "Great, she's going to give me so much advice." And I sat down with her and she's like, "You're going to starve for the first 10 years. And I'm like, "Okay." And she was like, no shitting you. This is going to suck. And so the next 5 years maximum, you're going to know if you're going to have the guts for this or not. If this is going to be your career, or if you're going to, yeah.
That's
So
intense.
that was that from my side. How are you, Jenny?
How I got into it.
Yes.
You basically pulled me into it.
because he couldn't feed himself.
two are better than one.
Daryl was like, "I need a hand on a short film. Can you help me with it?" "Yeah, okay, I'll tag along." Next moment, I'm sounding most of your productions now. In terms of my parents, I think they know that it's more of an outlet for me, because this is basically a secondary job / hobby for me. So they're okay with it. But in terms of obviously income that wise, they're still a bit hesitant on it.
Cool. Well, I originally wanted to be an actress when I was younger, about 10 or so, and I had that dream for a few years.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, and so I started doing a lot of stage work. I didn't do a lot of film work at that stage, because I lived in Invercargill and people didn't make films, really. They just did lots of stage plays. And so I did that, and my mom was never really happy about it. My dad was always like, "Do what makes you happy, just don't do medicine."
No.
Which is
Sounds like
because he's a doctor.
Everyone, yeah.
People could save themselves.
Because he's a doctor, and he's always been very creative, so I guess that's where that came from. He wanted me to do all the things that he couldn't do, I guess.
Because I feel like your dad would actually make a great stand-up comedian.
He would be awesome. Yeah, anyway, so I did that, but my mom was always like, "Oh, I don't want you to be an actress." She was really, really against it. She'd let me do it, but she just didn't like it at all. And then eventually I just decided that I preferred been behind the scenes with films, and that actually just made her breathe a sigh of relief. But my dad was just like, yeah, just do whatever. So it's been pretty positive. They've been really supportive. They kind of get concerned sometimes with the long hours, and obviously how you don't always get paid very well or not at all. So they're kind of concerned about that, and there's occasionally that sort of question of, so you're not going out to work, like when is your next paycheck coming in? And of course you can't always answer that question, so it's a pretty unpredictable business, and so that can be quite frustrating, but ultimately they're pretty supportive of me, so I'm pretty lucky.
Was their hesitation of you doing it, was income the primary factor for it, or was it more kind of the other reasons to getting into film, the image, or the how people perceive you if you're an actress?
I think my mom was just concerned about the culture of acting, because that particular culture can be quite destructive of people if you're not very well grounded. It can really destroy you, and so there's all that kind of, I guess there's that darkness to it that she was worried about, but it's still, to me, it also exists behind the scenes. So I think it is just because you see everybody in front of the camera, you don't see people behind the camera, but it is the same culture, and it's just about making sure that when you go into it that you're really well grounded and that you're going to just stay yourself. You're not going to go in there and let it change you, and I think if it starts to, then you need to get out straight away, because it's not a good place for you to be.
And I guess that can also having that balance in your lifestyle as far as the people you surround yourself with. I like to hang out with people who aren't actors at times, on the weekend. My best friend from high school, they're totally not into it. So having that balance coming home really helps keep me grounded. But I mean, on that note, when I started, I remember, total opposition when I first told my dad. I remember the memory so well when he pulled me over in the car, and it was like, we don't become that, blah, 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 blah. He just gave me this big kind of, because I was in the passenger seat holding all these chemistry books, because I was in uni. And he asked me how uni was going, and I don't know, for a moment in time, I was just it was one of the first times where I was just genuinely honest with him. I was like, actually, it's not going too well because I'm not really enjoying it. I'd rather do film. That's when he slammed on the brakes and gave me the biggest lecture. Wow. And then in that moment, I had two choices: to kind of succumb to that, or to be like, now I'm only more fueled to and I chose that part. So, but I think what was disappointing for them was that when I was younger, I think I'm the only person in my family that has pursued something creatively, in broad terms of family, especially with Asian families, how big they are. So I'm the only person that's pursued something creatively. So, and I think when I was younger, I had told my parents, this is when I was under the age of 10, or even between the age of 10 to 13, I told my parents I wanted to become a doctor, purely for the reason to make them happy. So with that in mind, I guess they got super excited, and they're like, cool, he's sussed and stuff. So it was that whole idea of choosing the life of security and stability versus risk and adventure. Because a lot of the stuff you do, there's risk involved when you do anything, but there's calculated risk versus not calculated risk. And I think being an actor or doing something creative like this, there's a lot of non-calculated risk. You just got to go for it. So I think that was the biggest obstacle, was them overcoming the fact that I wasn't pursuing medicine. And I mean, to this day, I still kind of get opposition a little, but I guess they're slowly starting to grow into it. But it's more about me proving myself. So each job that I do, or each thing that I do, it kind of goes beyond now. I think I had this discussion with you, Ben, where it goes beyond just trying to prove to my father, but kind of more setting a name for myself and setting such a standard where other people in my position, regardless of your background, if you've had that much opposition as well, I kind of want to stand up there and say it's 100% possible and go for it. It's one of those things now where it's turned from a selfish thing to more of a cause, a global cause, hopefully, to kind of really push others. Because I mean, there's been ups and downs I think everyone's gone through ups and downs, even if you do choose that life of stability and security. But I have no regrets not walking into that interview for medicine or whatever. Yeah, I had absolutely no regrets not doing that. So, yeah. Yeah, that's my...
Cool. My story is a little bit more long-winded and like goes on a bit of a weird journey where. Well, I'm sorry. Bun fell asleep.
I was like, boring.
So, I actually only ever got into acting, writing, and directing because of skateboarding. Skateboarding was such a massive part of my life for like more than 11 years, and my parents were absolutely terrified because I was ending up in like the emergency room of hospitals really regularly. I think when I was at university, I ended up there every single semester. And it was so crazy because it's actually possible here in New Zealand, but it's so hard. I feel like if I had somehow been grown up in Southern California, I might have actually made a career in it somewhere. Maybe not as a professional skateboarder, but somewhere in that industry, maybe as a videographer or something, because that's actually what got me into even making videos. Was I wanted to make skate videos. And then that journey took a really long turn. I actually trained as a 16mm camera operator.
Really?
I did, yeah. And then learned through that training I did not want to be a camera operator. And it was so expensive. And I look back and I think it's absolutely amazing that my parents were supportive of it because they didn't want me to skateboard. So it's like, this is the lesser of two evils. Let's support him through this.
Now I want to write a short film where you act in a on skateboards, and it's like, now what?
And then I came to New Zealand and studied film at Auckland University, and the whole time I was thinking like, I'm going to be a big time film director. In my final year of uni, did not get selected into the directing stream, and was kind of shocked of like, I have no idea what I want to do this year now. What the hell am I going to do? Writing lecturer invited me into her office and said, hey, I've been kind of like keeping my eye on you. You've got a very unique voice. First time I've heard that phrase. And invited me to sign up for the writing component of that final year, the writing stream. And that year changed everything, where I think it's a huge struggle, but I honestly believe that that's where I want to spend most of my time and energy. I want to write scripts. I want to create stories. I want to create things, films, plays, books, graphic novels, if I can. If I'm given those opportunities, I'm making some of them myself, but it's a lot slower when you're making them for yourself. Where I want to empower people, I want to make people see that it is possible, simple, not easy at all. Like it's a daily struggle, but it's possible. And so, yeah, my parents were strangely supportive because my other interest was so much worse. And I still love skateboarding. I still miss it like so much.
Nostalgia.
Yeah. It was like all my weekends and like nights sometimes.
I think what's also important is like the perspective of what we're doing. Like when I say the word being creative, we kind of think of that in a very different way than someone who's not in this industry. So, someone like I don't know, a genetic scientist or whatever can have their own kind of perspective of being creative.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think this industry is kind of it's an interesting topic because this industry seems to have that one thing in common where particularly for Asian people pursuing the arts, having the appearance support, it always seems to be like this common theme as to how we've all kind of had similar hesitations or conflict from our parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we all have day jobs.
Yeah.
Like, we do create stuff and we do create films whenever we can, but you know,
We still have to make a living. Yeah. We still have to get by.
I work
Yeah.
a day job in insurance, and it
Yeah.
pays the bills.
Yeah. Totally.
Like to them, they think creative is daydreaming, is just.
Yeah, I think.
like-
Yeah.
But like that's the thing that they like. I think most people see being in a creative role as like you're just daydreaming and you're just making something out of nothing, and you're just in the clouds the entire time. But it's like, no, our creative business is that we create something from nothing, but we could marketize it and we could commercialize it, and or we could sell it, and or we could change stuff. Like that's probably the bigger picture, I guess.
Yeah. Totally. It's that whole art of storytelling,
Yeah.
and through that, there's like different avenues.
It actually wasn't until I think Dad was always supportive. Dad's always the one that always knocks on my door and kind of goes like, "Hey, how's the film coming along?" or "How's the edit coming along?" And he's the one, probably more than Léah, that's constantly like, "So when's Vagabond coming out?"
Good.
Yeah. But Mum has been a bit like. She might actually be listening to this. Who knows? She was always a bit hesitant most times, especially where like it's like same with you, Léah. Like you have situations where it's like she'll complain when you're going out because she's like, where are you going off to? I'm like, oh, we're filming in the Waitakeris today. And it's like, is it a paid job? Like, not this one, but the next one next week will be. And it's just like, okay. And then whenever you're not working, then it's kind of like, why aren't you working? What's happening? And I'm like, today's my day off. It's like, are you sure? I'm like, I just came off of 7 days. Yeah, you have a lot of days off. I'm like, or there might be times it's like, you're on your computer a lot. I'm like, I know, it's editing.
Yeah, and that's a struggle. Is we don't really live that consistent 9 to 5.
No.
And I had that a lot as well. Like if I was learning a script or whatever in my room, or editing or doing whatever, and I had like multiple days off, whatever. To them, it's like, what's why are you not like dressed in a suit going to to work?
Monologuing,
or
why aren't you monologuing every work?
Yeah, so.
So it wasn't until actually I feel like the change visibly was the 48 hours, the grand finals, when I actually invited my parents along to the grand finals.
Oh yeah, cool.
And they were kind of like a bit. I mean, Mum was like, "What's this gonna be?" It's like she was really kind of prepared for this to be kind of like everybody just shows up in a community hall, like wearing whatever they want, and we're just sitting down and like watching a projector play all our films. Like, okay, guys, we're going to be showing the next film, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when we walked into the the Civic, and some people were in suits. I mean, I wore a suit.
Good. Yeah, good that you wore a suit.
Yeah. And we sat down there, and Mom and Dad were completely blown away by the experience. And then when our film was shown, Finest Creation, Mum was the one that was tapping my dad, going, "Look!
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
that's ours." And then the credits roll, and she was like, she was clapping a lot, and she loved the experience. And she then realized, as we were walking around, like, I'll say hi to various people. Come on, wake up, bun.
He's like, you're telling a lie. Tell the true story, Daryl.
Like when we're walking around, like saying like hi to other filmmakers, and other filmmakers coming up to congratulate us, we congratulate others, and that's when I think Mum started realizing this: you're actually in a community, and you're actually like not like you should not take the fact that we're top 18 film teams in New Zealand lightly.
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, this is serious. And from then on, from the beginning of this year, she's been very supportive, and she's like, when's the next shoot? It's like, oh, the next shoot's with this particular company. It's like, wow, good on you, cool, all the best.
Yeah, it's cool.
That's cool, but it's also interesting because that was quite recent, and you've been doing this for a while.
It takes time to win over. I feel like I'm only just touching on that now. But I don't know if it's the same with you guys. But do you guys ever get, because, like, I mean, most of us have siblings here. I think, yeah. So out of the siblings, I believe, like, I don't know, apart from Ryan, who else like in your family does something similar to what you do? The question being, do you ever, like when you find you're at family functions or with friends or whatever who are not in that industry, do you ever get kind of sick when they keep asking you about, because they're so intrigued by it because it's so different? Does it ever, like, I've only recently experienced that yesterday where I was like, this is kind of like why it's like the same thing. I feel like
how
there's
you
so
get
much to
to
talk about.
family functions and your parents and aunties and your uncles are like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And then like showing off your cousins and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's,
that. You're like,
it's
goodness sake.
I think it's kind of worse when you're actually going through a period where you don't have any work, and then
Oh,
they
you'd
go,
be
"So
like,
what are you
doing?
What are you doing at the moment?" "Oh, well, I'm just at home sending my
Yeah.
CV out, or you know,
Yeah.
or I'm
Totally, yeah.
auditioning, or whatever it is that you need to do." They don't appreciate the amount of work that goes into just
No.
prepping, and then
Exactly.
but when you are working, it's so intense, so you need that time off actually
Yep.
in between.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they don't see that. Like, I mean, last year there were some weeks I did 75-hour weeks, you know, and that's just how intense it can be. But on the other hand, you can go through weeks with nothing at all. At the beginning of this year, I didn't really have much on. And now I've got like a full-time contract and
Yeah.
working really long hours, and that's just the nature of the industry. And I don't think that people appreciate that. They just, all they see you is like you're lying on the beach on a Monday, and then they go, "Oh yeah, so you don't
Yeah.
really do any work,
Oh,
do
I
you?
hate- I
It's just
hate-
a
I
bit
hate
of
that.
fun."
Yeah, I hate that when you're like when you're scheduled to work on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you have your Monday off, and everybody who has a standard job's working, and it's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "I'm sleeping in right now." It's like, "Oh, it's another day off." I'm like, "No, it's not a day off. Like I need to rest.
day
I've been
off.
working, 12 hours a day, for the past 3 days," and it's like, "Oh, like the entire week that you've taken off." It's like, no.
yeah.
I was involved in a theater workshop all of this week, and on Tuesday it was like 9 till 4, and then that night I was involved in a short film shoot that was like 10 till 3. And then when I told people, I was like, "Oh yeah," when the next day when I got home from the next day of the theater workshop, I was in bed by 5. Like, wow, I wish I could have that luxury. Of like, dude, no, I was exhausted. You have no idea. I slept 13 hours because I was so tired.
It's this weird idea that it's really glamorous, and they
Yeah.
don't see you on set covered in mud. You're really wet and cold, and you've been working since like
Oh, yeah.
like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and now it's like 3 a.m. And they don't see that idea. They don't know that you've been doing night shoots for 6 weeks and you're exhausted.
I had that, like the same thing with like it's like the same thing like with you, Mayen, like being spurred on with like I could only go one of two ways. I could be really disheartened about this, or I could actually really own this and push
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
And so it was when I was like made the active decision. I'm now going to be in the film business, and I want to be a camera operator. I can't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah.
It was a lot of me just posting photos of me with the camera gear, or me working, or me behind the scenes, and I'm like, I'm pushing at this. Look, this is who I am, and I'm working my ass off for this.
Yeah.
And the exact opposite response was, "Oh wow, look how privileged you are. Look how great you are working with that particular actor, or you're like that looks so glamorous." And I'm like, the camera didn't just magically appear here. The lights didn't magically appear.
Exactly.
It was
And-
heavy as hell to carry, get to this position. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting because, I agree. If you're not an artist, it's more about the product, not the process.
yes,
Nobody really understands that, and that's so tough to deal with. But just like what you were saying, like you'd know what you want to do within the 5 years, and I think that really holds true because for me, like within the 5 years of like being rejected, and no matter how many times I kind of go in the corner and I cry from being rejected, the next day I'm always like, but I don't want to let go of it. I don't want to let go of it.
Because it's
No
too
matter-
important.
It's too
Yeah.
important, and I've like done it for years, and I'm still at the phase where it's like, yes, no matter how many rejections, I still know that if I give it up, I'm going to be worse off. And I've met actors like recently who have decided like now they want to give up acting and do something steady and stable, which is perfectly fine. But I don't know if I'll ever reach that stage, or if I have. But people, like for me, it's hard to grasp someone letting go of being creative,
yeah,
because I think it's kind of such a privilege. Like it's so unique to.
It's also
Yeah, but-
interesting because a lot of people, they look at acting and they think, "Oh, I can only act between the age of 25 to like 35 when I'm the best looking I'll ever
Prime,
be."
yeah.
And then there are like some people who's like one of my favorite actors in The West Wing, I think only started after the age of 64.
Oh, wow.
And she was incredible. She always was so grounded, held the scene together. It was absolutely amazing. I can't remember her name, the actor's real name, but the character name was Mrs. Lanningham.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and she was phenomenal. And different. It's quite possible that if she tried pursuing acting when she was much younger, it would never have happened. But her story is that, I think her husband passed away, and I was like, well, I always wanted to act. Let's go into community theater. She did a community theater show, and then got hired to be on shows like The West Wing.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
In the last 5...
Catherine Houston.
Thank you. Yes, Catherine Houston.
In the last 5 minutes, I've got a really good question to go around the table. If and or when, well, actually no, if or when you have kids and your kids come of the age where they approach you and say, hey, daddy or mommy, I want to be a stage actor, or I want to be an expressionist dancer, or I want to be, God forbid, a photographer.
Whoa.
Hey, I like photography.
Yeah. You're not gonna make any money. No, not kidding.
Whoa.
No.
Yeah. What would be your advice or reactions, or would you might even be the same as your parents, actually going, well, we're gonna need to talk. Yeah. For anybody, what's the answer first?
So I don't think that I would ever be ready to have children unless I'm able to be at that level where there is a lot of I do have a lot of income coming in from creative projects. And I came to that realization a few years ago where I was like, maybe I'll never have kids. But I would feel like unless I had that income to take care of children and like a family, I wouldn't feel like I wouldn't be a good father or husband, because I wouldn't be providing for them. And I wouldn't want to do that. But if it did happen, then I would be like, always chase that dream, but always make sure that you're not starving on the side of a road chasing that dream without going about it in the right way.
Practical way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just shuddering thinking about the fact of having children. But if that does come, I would be in a situation where it's only now that I'm realizing where my dad's old. Okay, he's like kind of old school. He's that sort of generation. I'm only realizing now why he's coming from where his point of view. So in that regards, of course I'd be supportive, but I'd really more be like, well, prove it. What are you going to do to prove it? Let me see how hard you can work at it, and be supportive in whatever way I can. But the ultimate thing is that test of how badly do you want it?
Yeah.
Like, do you want it, or is it just a...
Yeah, because this is gonna...
So if you want, then prove it. Let's,
Yeah, because it's going to beat you down constantly. And
prove it consistently, And that's when you
better rise up,
Because I think everyone goes through a phase of being like, oh, I want to be this, and I want to be this.
Yeah,
and 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, I don't want to be that anymore.
I want to be an astronaut, you know?
That's like what every actor goes through. That's why they're an actor.
I think for me, like, if my kid wanted to do it, like, to be honest, I see so many young students kind of really passionate about it, but they just don't have the drive and they don't have the stickability to do it. And I would never tell them don't do it, but I would say to them, make sure that you finish everything that you start. Make sure that you just keep going and you give it your best. Don't sort of do a half-assed job and then leave it behind, because otherwise there's no point. There's really no point in doing it unless you're going to go the whole way. So I would just make sure that they're on that page, because otherwise they're going to just have a really disillusioning time. And then it would probably have been better for them to go and be a lawyer or something, and actually get something finished. But I feel like, if they are on that page and they have the drive and they really love it, then there's no ways I would say no. I just say do whatever it takes. Go the whole way, but just make sure that you are prepared to stick with it, because it is something you have to stick with for a long time before it works.
Jenny, how are you going to handle our kids? I'm assuming it's gonna be ours or it could be yours. I don't know. Is it too early to say? How are you gonna handle your kids? Your hypothetical.
This is couple counseling right now.
Another podcast.
I'm in this weird middle ground because I have two jobs, which is basically I'm a registered nurse, so I do have a steady income, and I do this as like sound opting as a part-time as well. I will be, and also coming from a background how much my parents have sacrificed in order to come to live in New Zealand, like my mum came from like a family of like 11, and my dad came from like a family of 9 living on a farm, that type of thing. So I can understand why you want a stable income and why you want that like flexibility in raising a family, that type of thing. In terms of raising a child, if they do want to become in the film industry, that type of thing, it will be, I'm going to warn them like your auntie did, you're going to starve for the next 10 years before you get anywhere, but you will need to work very hard at it.
Get Mayen to talk to them. You're like, prove it. Prove how much you want.
That's my methodology would be like, okay, it's going to suck for the first few years, but I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going to foster it though. If you're willing to tell me that you want to be an expressionistic dancer or a metal sculptor or an actor or whatever, or a writer director, go for it. I'm going to help foster that. If you want to be a cinematographer, I will, depending on which camera, depending on the price, I will help you. Depending on the price, I will help you, set you up. And I will, help you ease in the right contexts, and I will, I know a few people that could probably put you in the right place. But after those 5 years, you're on your own. Yeah. Like, I'm going to help you.
Especially if you're a photographer.
Yeah. But essentially, that's how I would see it, is try to set them as right as you can, and then after that, you can't pressure them. You can't tell them, like, when's the next film. You can't hound them. You just got to let them take it away.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess that's all the time we have for now. If you would like to be a part of this conversation, feel free to talk about it in the comments page. Feel free to talk about it in the comments on our Facebook page, Angle 3 Pictures. And if you'd like to know more about us and what we do, look us up in angle3.com.
Joey had one job.
And cut.